We're joined now by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and ACLJ Senior Counsel for Global Affairs. And Secretary Pompeo, we talk about the details of Hunter Biden's plea agreement that have been made public and Devon Archer's testimony. Kind of feels like the Biden family and the Biden administration have made a bit of a mockery of the highest offices in our land with the business dealings and the kind of actions that they were taking around the world. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Jordan, if you take just what we know, and I would agree with what I think you said earlier, there's still lots of questions that remain to be answered, and I hope the House of Representatives will continue to pursue them. But if you take just what we know, Hunter Biden put the then Vice President of the United States on the phone, ostensibly, according to some, to talk about the weather. But you and I both know when you put the Vice President of the United States on the phone, you are messaging. I think Devon Archer apparently called it branding. But make no mistake about it, Vice President Biden would have known the reason he was on that phone call as well. And I think that's important. This is really about the current president, President Biden, not about Hunter. The vice president would have known the reason he was getting on that phone call. It was to advantage his son, to help his son communicate to those folks that he would have access to the United States government at the highest levels. And to your point, this is indecent to leverage that office in that way for the benefit of your child, or in this case, for you as the vice president. We'll see how much money actually went to the vice president himself, but I'm confident that as more stones are overturned, we're going to find this is a deeper problem than we even know today.
Mike, you have the unique perspective of being former member of Congress, a Secretary of State, Director of the CIA. You think about the countries that this family was doing business with: Ukraine, China, Romania, and the issues that our country is dealing with these countries, while the then vice president, who said initially, I did nothing about my son's international business dealing, find out he was on the phone calls with him, whatever they talked about, like you said, whether it was branding, messaging, whatever it is. But you dealt with these leaders of these countries face to face, eyeball to eyeball. These are serious players, and we're playing like we're in the minor leagues here, like single A.
It's so true. It's so amateurish as well. I think your point's exactly right. Now, these are sophisticated counterparties who knew precisely what they were doing when the then vice president got on the phone. You know, what the vice president might have done before he was in office or what he did when he was out of office, that's fundamentally different. He was the holder of a constitutionally identified position. He was acting with the force of the United States government in everything that he did during those years. And so these are sophisticated people who knew that they could use Hunter Biden to get access to Vice President Biden. And it appears they did so intentionally, and they appeared the vice president went along with that. This is amateurish at one level and very dangerous at another level.
Yeah, but they say like they go to one dinner and $3.5 million gets wired the next day from a Russian billionaire into the Biden's account.
Well, what was the thing?
Pure coincidence, Jordan. Pure coincidence.
Yeah, well, let me give you another coincidence.
Tell the secretary
about
more.
Kazakhstan.
In Kazakhstan, you're right. That was another dinner. They had the photo of it. With the president of Kazakhstan at Cafe Milano in Washington with Hunter and Joe Biden there when he was vice president. Next day, he's got a Porsche.
From Kazakhstan.
Yes. I mean, so it just seems like the money that was in the indictment and the plea deal, which is like $4 million, I think, total, seems to start dwindling away very quickly. Like this starts growing and growing every time. I mean, Devon Archer literally said Burisma wouldn't have survived as a company without Biden on the board.
So what does this do? And this is what our audience wants to know, Mr. Secretary. What does this do? Because these countries know exactly what they're doing. They're sophisticated players on the global stage. What does this do not only to our standing, but to how they view us in a policy perspective here?
You know, we've always had the most pristine set of relationships. We have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. We have all these set of rules, and we just behave differently than other countries. This kind of suggests that Vice President Biden was playing by the rules of these other nations. And what others observe is, oh my goodness, if the United States is going to do this, if there's going to be official actors getting on the phone for commercial transactions to benefit them, not for their country, but for their family or those around them, then we are no different than those other countries. And I promise you, when others read the transcript that comes out from the Archer hearing, or they see these WhatsApp messages or text messages that talk about 10% for the big guy, they're familiar with it. They've seen it in their own countries. This is the worst of governmental action, and it's inconsistent with how America has behaved for 250 years. And those responsible for this need to be held accountable. That's maybe for your listeners. The most important thing is it is great work that the House of Representatives is doing, but we need the prosecutors' offices to pick this up, investigate this, evaluate it, not politically, but fairly based on the facts. And when they do, we'll let the chips fall where they may, but it doesn't look good.
I'll tell you the other thing, of course, is we talk about this two-tier system of justice. I mean, where's the special counsel? I mean, I dealt with a special counsel for 2.5 years. So I know what it's like. I'm not a fan of special counsel statutes, so don't get me wrong here. But where are they on this one? And this plea deal, now that we've seen it, I mean, nobody in America, Mike, would have gotten a plea deal where it said this. From 2014 to 2018, anything you did, known or unknown, we are absolving you from. And if there's a violation of this plea, it cannot be brought by the Department of Justice. The judge has to initiate it. And the judge wisely said, well, I'm an Article 3 judge. I'm not an Article 2 prosecutor. That's your job, not my job. But the fact that they even had the nerve to put that up to the judge in the first place is what's so breathtaking here.
No, absolute moxie. Jay, you've done bad work. You should have gotten that for every one of your clients.
Yeah, right. I feel terrible. I mean, right. Exactly. I mean, I couldn't get them absolved from everything they thought.
Exactly. No, look, and even the prosecutor had to admit he'd never done this before, that this was completely unique. He was asked, can you identify another case in which this has happened? He had to say, no, we've never done this before. That suggests there's a lot more to this too. The Biden team thought they were going to sweep this under the rug, and that the judge didn't permit that to happen. And American people will be better off for that. And I think there's still a lot we don't know. And for the prosecutor to have shown up with that deal, I can't imagine how that person doesn't resign from their position. It is so deeply inconsistent with their fiduciary obligations and their responsibility as a prosecutor. I don't see how you continue to be the one that's in charge of this case.
You know, Mike, we're in a life and liberty drive here at the ACLJ for this month of August. We have gone through every comment on all of our social media for all of our broadcasts and are focusing in on the issues that really matter most to our members and our donors. And at the top of the list is all this government accountability. But I think since you've had this broad swath of experience within government, both as a member of Congress, CIA director, and then Secretary of State, people, I think coming from you, the importance of being able to get to the bottom of these issues and groups like the ACLJ doing that are really critical to the functioning of the government then being able to do oversight in Congress because we can get information and share it.
Jay, that's so critical. And it doesn't surprise me that everyone's focused on this. It's right for them to be. I remember even in the moment, the work that I did to try and hold Secretary Clinton responsible for what she did related to the people, the Americans who were killed in Benghazi, right? It is absolutely essential that organizations like the ACLJ have access to information and continue to do this work to uncover these stones. We need a transparent United States government and then the accountability that flows from that. I pray that we'll get that in each of these instances, that we will get justice imposed, not politically, but in a way that is fair and equitable. That is certainly not the path we appear to be headed down today.
We appreciate it. Thanks for being with us as always. What great insight you get from the former Secretary of State.
Join the ACLJ in the fight to keep America free.